What's up, Wholesale Nation? This is Andre King.
And I'm Andy Speed.
Guys, welcome to the show. I want to thank you for listening again. Andy, so last time we talked, we were moving into San Antonio. How's that been going?
Last time we talked, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, a couple of short weeks ago. We moved into the San Antonio market.
It has been a few weeks ago, right?
Yeah, it's been a few weeks. First deal assigned today.
Nice.
So we've been in the market for all of 3 weeks. Our acquisitions agent started a week and a couple of days ago.
Right.
But we managed to fumble our way through our first deal and
nice.
Got it locked up this morning, signed this afternoon. So pretty excited about it. She's got that proof of concept. Only took 3 short weeks and she's ready to go.
Right. So that's nice. So yeah, she came in, spent some time with some of our salespeople, dispositions. She's going to be doing both in the San Antonio market. But we're able to get that first deal done, and we look at 3 weeks. I call that taking action. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And the guest that we have today, that's what you're going to hear a lot of, is someone that no matter what part of his business or what business he was in or what niche he was in, he took action.
Yeah, it's build a plan, and he says it almost word for word: build a plan, execute.
Right, and that's what he did. He didn't go read for like hours and then study for 3 months and then decide to think about it, right? This guy really just pulled the trigger. And the thing is, when you hear about the first deal he did, it wasn't a slam dunk deal, but that one catapulted him to where he is today. And although he made a little bit of money, for him, that was a proof that this stuff works, and he was able to take it off from there. All right. So the guy now, of course, runs one of the, I would say, larger real estate investment brokerages here in the Houston market, and well respected in the Houston market as well. And he's really the only one, when you think of, I guess, the retail space that are in the investment space that's really doing anything that's in a big way. So without further ado, I'd like to bring on Mr. Alan Hernandez.
So, Alan, we've got here with us today, Alan with White Picket Realty out of the Houston market. Alan, thanks for coming.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for having me, you guys. This is really exciting.
Yeah, I was talking to Andy. It was like, so who we're going to get like in our market that's a staple in our market. And so you were one of the guys that came to mind. We know that you've had like a diverse background when you've done some wholesaling, you've done some flipping, done some retail. All right. And so I know a lot of new people that are getting started. They're looking, so where do I get started in this business? And so I know you have a huge perspective of why should you wholesale? Why shouldn't you wholesale? So I know you have a huge perspective on that. So if you want to just give our audience a little bit about who is Alan Hernandez, how did you get started and where you're at now?
Oh, man. Thank you again for having me and for giving me the opportunity to share this. I get this question a lot. And when I go out and like network, for whatever reason, it's like, hey, should I wholesale or should I go get my license or should I, do both or whatever? And I can tell you, I didn't know that I was going to be doing what I'm doing now 10 years ago and had no clue that I was going to go through all of these phases inside of real estate. And I say phases because, one thing always leads to the other. And when I was in college, it was my last year of college, I knew that I was never going to be a good employee, so I just knew that I had to start my own thing, right? And so, eventually I started reading books and I started knocking on doors, literally like knocking on doors of a neighborhood that I thought had some potential. And that was just like based on me reading investment books, flipping books. I started reading a lot of Robert Kiyosaki and getting into the thought process and mindset of what it was to start a business. Right. I thought I knew everything and boy, was I wrong. And I've learned so many lessons about that along the way. But long story short, somebody eventually decided to sell me their house. It was a sweet little old lady. I have no clue till this day what she was thinking, because she was like, yeah, I'll sell you my house. How much do you want to pay? I didn't know what to do, but we put it all on like a regular piece of paper that she had on the table. It was like, could have been a napkin for all I remember.
No contract or anything.
Yeah, no, I didn't. I had nothing. And I didn't know how I was going to pay for this either, because I had no money. I was a broke college kid. And, I ended up calling a couple of signs, like bandit signs. And obviously one of them called me back and was like, hey, yeah, I like it. I like the deal. And I'll pay you $1,000 for it. I was like, done. To this day, by the way, I don't know if that contract really was worth like $1,000 or like 20 or 30,000 bucks. But to me, to me, that $1,000 was more money than I'd ever had, like cash at once.
Right.
So I bought beer for all my friends that night, and and it was like amazing. Of course, my friends all were like, "Oh, what are you doing? Like, are you drug dealing, or what are you up to now?" I'm like, no. You know, I'm doing this investment thing. So obviously, I thought I was like building like a pyramid scheme, and everybody was like, "I don't want anything to do with it and whatnot." But you know, long story short, I get out of college, I get into just wholesaling with an investment company here in town, which meant I was going to sellers, putting them in contract, reselling them. And I was 7 years in. I mean, I had done probably 600-700 transactions by that point. And I was like, all right, man, you know, what's next? Either I own a piece, or I got to go out and do my own thing. Cause I mean, I can't be here forever. Right. The owner was like, probably better if you go out and do your own thing. And so that's what I did. And I started White Picket in 2012, thinking I was only going to do investment transactions and only going to wholesale. And we did that for 5 years strong. We would do anywhere between 100 to 150 transactions a year. We keep 20 to 30 of them to flip and keep ourselves or build into our rental portfolio. And then the rest we'd wholesale out. And it worked out really, really well. And then eventually we decided, well, hey, not only can we do that, but, you know, we see the market changing and we see some opportunities and also making money as a brokerage. And I had the license already. So it ended up evolving into a brokerage that supported people who wanted to both do retail investment or retail transactions and investment transactions. And really that's where we're at now, man. Just long story short, we're at 4 offices. We're opening up our 5th here shortly. A little bit over 50 agents, and it works out. I mean, we're able, probably one of the few here in Houston who understand that you can make money both in retail real estate, and those are like your fast nickels, and then we also love the slow dimes that come from flipping a house or making a big wholesale fee.
Right, and you see that a lot right now. That's one of the things that we've been kind of work on. We went to some other markets, and one of the things we saw was that realtors were working with investors, right, instead of working against investors. And it seems like you guys, because you came from the industry and you came from the investment side, that you really get it. Do you have any stories? Like, what are the realtors that are in your business now? Are they all like, do they think like you, or are they 50-50, or so how's that process?
So we don't dictate how they run their business. We encourage them to do both. And what started happening is we started getting into the retail business slowly. And then at one point we decided, okay, everyone needs to do a little bit of retail if they're going to work for us, because again, it's just an easier piece of the puzzle to tackle. And you make just as much, if not more money, and it's more consistent. And we found that there was a lot of inconsistency in the income that you produce as a wholesaler, unless you're absolutely phenomenal, which those people exist as well. And so we said, well, we want to make sure that people come in and they build a business that has stability, because as you and I both know, most businesses don't, right? And so we found a way that you could do both at the same time. And so we have agents that maybe do 50-50. We have some that do like 90-10. And the whole point is we want to encourage them to learn both sides of the business. So yes, learn to help people buy and sell and make some money, but also start working on building, your net worth and your wealth. And that happened because we had a class once where we asked 100 people that attended our class how many of them owned rentals. It was a class of nothing but realtors. Mm-hmm. And we noticed a couple things. Only 2 people raised their hand, and almost all of them were over the age of 60. And what was scary about that is, they were on their way out of the industry, but that also meant that they were on their way out of the industry and were going to be broke. And they had spent a lifetime helping people gain and produce wealth, but had nothing for themselves. So that's why we started going in that direction as well.
Right. So it was in 2015 when you really opened up to traditional retail sales. Is that correct?
That's right. It was end of 2015 when we were like, hey, you know what? We've been leaving a lot of money on the table. We get a lot of people that call us from our own deals that want to buy them, and we've been referring them out. Why not just do them in-house and have a sales team that not only does, one thing, but does the other one?
Right. Okay. And then what would you say, like for that wholesaler or realtor that's looking to kind of straddle both sides of it? What would you say on the retail side and what you're doing now from a marketing standpoint? I know with wholesaling, it's very heavy into the marketing. What does marketing look like on the retail side?
So that was one of the biggest deciding factors is people decide to get into real estate and they're leaving like these like 9-to-5 cushy jobs, right? And or they just have like this amazing idea and it's great. Like we want to encourage and empower those people. And at the same time, we want to be realistic and say, if you're going to get into real estate, whether you choose one side or the other, it's a business. And you have to be able to put in both time and money, especially in the beginning. I mean, I remember there was days, and it still happens every time we go through a change here, where, you know, I'm still working 15, 16-hour days more if I could, you know, and so that's the case when you start a business. Either you're going to put in money or you're going to put in time, or chances are you'll do both. And what we saw in the wholesale side is that our expenses for actually closing a transaction, meaning going out, doing our marketing, taking in the phone calls, filtering them, going out, meeting them, like literally from point A to the end of the transaction, we were spending about $2,500, sometimes up to like $4,000 per lead. And so it depends on like how much money you have and how much money you're willing to spend and how good your skills are. We saw the retail side of the business as a much easier avenue. Like if you're a badass salesman and you're confident and you can take no left and right, and you can go out there and make sure that people sell you their house, you're obviously going to do really, really well in wholesale, and you're probably going to make more money. The way that I saw it is not everyone has that skill, and it takes time to build that up. Like it's not something that you just like pick up a book and all of a sudden you're an expert. It takes time. It takes practice. It takes a lot of skill to really be good when you're belly to belly in front of a client. So we said, well, everyone wants to buy a house. I mean, eventually everyone wants to. And the cost of acquisition of a client in the retail side of the business is not even close. I mean, not even close to what you spend on the wholesale side. So for us, it made sense to have our agents start with this, which is the retail side, and build into the other side once they were ready and had the skills to do so.
Yeah, it's crazy how you've evolved into recognizing that, because that's where, as a wholesale business, that's where we are. And a lot of wholesalers, you see these leads come across and you want to monetize them, but do you lose focus by going to go monetize that? Or do you refer that out? Like, what's the correct path? And you've kind of straddled both sides. And I mean, you've really created quite the atmosphere for Houston. I mean, you guys are the retail brokerage for, you know, investments / inner city $400,000 listings that seem to pop up every day. You guys are just crushing it in that arena.
So what's crazy about that is that everybody says when you're dealing with an investment brokerage, it's like dealing with like a flat fee or you know, something cheap. And we're the total opposite of that. Like we're not cheap. Like we can list your house and we can sell it, but we'll bring every piece of the A game to the table, everything that we have to really market it and really get that property sold. And it's because, heck, at one point we were only selling our own transactions, like our own flips. And if you're going to sell your own stuff, you better put some money into it and get it in front of a ton of people so you can actually sell it and make money, right? So like flipping really taught us a whole lot about what needed to be done to really sell a house. And then on the other side, you're right, wholesaling, the only thing that's difficult is what's it going to cost for you to acquire that lead? And once you acquire that lead, once that person calls you, what are you going to do with it? Like if the lead doesn't fit exactly in your box, and think about this, how many times on the wholesale end of the business do you get someone that's like, hey, look, my house is worth $150. I'll take like $120 right now, and it doesn't need any work. And you're like, well, crap, it doesn't quite fit like my 70% formula minus repairs, this, that, and the other. And you're like, okay, it's not a deal. That's what most wholesalers do.
You throw it away. Yeah.
And so can you still make money on that? And the answer is, yeah, absolutely you can. You just have to be able to offer more options.
Correct. And that's, we call that monetizing the lead, right? Because sometimes like you said, it won't fit the box, but you have to think you may not make the same that you were usually making on wholesale, whether it's a $15,000, $20,000 assignment, but you also have to think about what does that do to your marketing? You take those funds that you would have usually just threw out of the window, right? And you recoup it, right? And then there's other ways, if you want to do seller finance, and those are the options, but getting creative with it. And for a lot of wholesalers, it's just a one-trick pony, and they end up throwing away a lot of money. And then they wonder why, like you said, that it cost them so much to be able to get a deal, because that was their deal and they just threw it away. Right?
Oh, absolutely. So, when I see a wholesaler make a big fee, like for example, last year, the biggest fee that I paid was $40,000, and I was happy. Like, I was like, dude, I'm so happy for you. I want to say, like, I think I took a picture, even posted it online. I was like, man, I just paid a $40,000 fee. And my wife manages all of our projects. I'm blessed because my wife is a designer, and so she like manages all of our projects, and she makes them look all nice and whatnot. So I don't have to worry about that. But she looked at the deal and she was like, "Oh my God, we just paid a $40,000 fee." And I'm like, "Yeah, but did you see what we got it for?" And she was like, "Yeah, it's a solid deal. I'm so happy that he got it." So we were happy. He was happy. Everyone felt great. But what I really was happy about is that I knew that this guy had been hitting dead ends left and right. Like, he'd send me like 5 or 6 deals that just were never going to sell. He couldn't sell them. They just didn't make any sense. They're way outside of like any sort of box. And he didn't have the skills to negotiate terms versus cash price. And when you're working outside the box, you got to really start thinking, like you said, very creatively. And so I felt bad because I know that those other deals that he had sent me, he had spent those $2,500 or so to bring those and get them under contract and do everything, but he hadn't actually calculated them. So when he made that $40,000 fee, I was like, bro, you made some money. Thank goodness. I'm happy for you.
Yeah, you're back in the black.
Yeah, exactly. And it's good for me too, because I'm not out there wholesaling full time. I'm not out with everything that I've stacked on my plate and running the brokerage. I can't go out there and be belly to belly with sellers anymore. So for me, I have to rely on great wholesalers like you guys to bring me a deal. And I hope you make money, because I want to make money too.
Correct. And so speaking of that, so being a buyer, because a lot of the podcast and what we've talked about is acquiring properties, how to market, but being a good steward out in the market and putting good products, good houses out there and the right prices and everything. What advice would you give to like a wholesaler from a buyer's perspective? Like, what are you looking for in a what you call a great wholesaler, someone that you actually going to open their email when it comes out? What makes you do that?
I'm so glad you're mentioning that, because I get bombarded by emails every day. I mean, they're nonstop. I think I may get maybe like 50 plus emails a day on quote unquote deals. And you're right. They're like, I get to the point where they're like their names, or if I just see a sender, I automatically just click on it and click erase. Like, I'm never going to look at them. That's just it. Like, I've already had enough,
Right.
I think just being realistic and just being a real person and not just trying to shovel-ish, if you know what I'm saying.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's like some guru out there, and I can't wait to like find him, because I want to like kick him in the teeth one day.
Right.
I feel like whoever that guru is, he's like going out there and he's like, hey, just go online and just find anybody's random deal and then tack on 10 grand and try to see which some poor guy out there who doesn't know any better, see if they're going to bite on it. I mean, I see that all the time. We call it daisy chaining.
Right.
And man, I mean, that just becomes frustrating, because those aren't real deals, and good quality buyers know better than that. Like, they're always going to do their research. So I would say if a wholesaler's out and he's looking to build a really rock solid buyers list, you don't really need that many. You need 10, maybe between 10 and 20 rock solid ones to really be able to move everything that you'll ever find in your inventory. For me, I'm very specific now. I'm very picky. I'm spoiled maybe in a way, because I have, a large group of agents who bring me their deals, and then I still work with a lot of wholesalers. And since I do a lot of funding, I do a lot of private funding for those same wholesalers, it makes sense for them to bring me their deals first, because either I fund it for them or I buy it directly off of them. So I get a chance to kind of look at the deals firsthand. But if I'm talking to a new wholesaler and he's like, hey, how do I build this buyers list? Man, it almost is one of those deals that you do organically. And then when you find a really good rock solid buyer, someone that closes on it, doesn't give you a ton of nonsense, doesn't renegotiate your fee after they find out what you're making, just, get ticked off because you're making 10, 15 grand. You take those people out to lunch and you say, hey, how do we make this thing streamlined? I don't want to have to email. I don't want to have to post on Facebook and all this, all these forums. I just want to get a deal, send it to you, you close it. And by the way, it comes with taking the good with the bad. I remember that when I was doing that, man, my life was so much easier when I could call one guy and be like, look, I know this one's not the best deal, but I know you got the cash, close on this thing, and the next one's yours for sure. And I had people that, yeah, they would take the not so good deals, but they would get the best deals too. And it all made sense for all of us at the end of the day.
Right. And that's great, because that's building relationship and finding out exactly what your buyer wants to do and how they, what kind of portfolio they want to build. And that's, that's what we look at, right? And that was kind of the reason why we came up with the podcast. That's the reason why we do our meetup. That's because we see a lot of it out there. We see wholesalers that just make up a price just so they can fit in their assignment.
Yeah, right? To make 10 grand. So here's the price.
Right. And so it really doesn't make a lot of sense. I met with a guy this weekend who had 4 deals go bad. And this guy just didn't have the education on how to evaluate properties, didn't have MLS access, didn't have all this stuff. He was going based on what the wholesaler was saying. And he basically evaluated a property that was, his property was much bigger than the smaller property, but he just took the square footage, price per square foot of the smaller property, and that was like 2,000 square foot, and put it on his 4,000 square foot house. And we know what that did to the after repair value. It just blew it up. Well, of course, this guy lost like $100,000 on this deal because he couldn't sell it, right? And that's what happened if you're not educated. And this wholesaler probably didn't know any better, all right?
And there seems to be a movement in Houston where things are moving towards accurate numbers. Right. There's definitely been pushback from the buyers. Like, look, we tell our buyers, it might not be the deal for you, but the number's going to be right.
Yeah.
If you don't like it, it's just because it's not your deal. But we're going to do everything we can to get the right numbers in there. And we respect that you're taking the risk as the buyer. We've been on that side. So we're still on that side every now and again.
Right? Yeah.
So.
And that's the thing. The numbers aren't the same for everyone. I mean, I've bought a couple of 85% LTV deals because even though they didn't make sense for me to flip it, it was an amazing cash flow machine. I mean, I just picked one up right next to Hobby, like walking distance to Hobby Airport, 80 cents on the dollar, something I would have never done if I was thinking about flipping it. But I'm going to rent it out, and the cash flow to me was tremendous. I was like, I'll pay a little extra to get an extra, piece of monthly cash flow. So yeah, the numbers aren't the same for every person, and the numbers aren't the same for every situation. I think having that clear understanding of what the buyer actually needs and wants, then you're going to do a better job, and you're going to provide a better service. And I think maybe that leads me to that point is, even though you're wholesaling and you're bringing and creating opportunities, you're still providing a service. And if you've gotten that pushback recently, I don't think it's just you guys on the wholesale side. I think it's everyone. Like, everyone in the industry right now is getting that push. Like, I see it from our retail buyers. I see it from everyone that we deal with. And what they're saying is, we demand better service. Like, we want to be treated well. We want to know that you guys are doing a good job and taking care of us. And so as a buyer, that's my expectation. And I know that my buyers, like my retail buyers or my investment buyers, they expect the same thing. And I want to provide that for them so that we can build that relationship.
Absolutely. We get paid based on the value that we bring to the transaction.
Exactly.
New wholesaler. I'm a guy spending $3,000 to $5,000 a month. I'm generating leads that I can't necessarily monetize. How would you recommend starting that relationship with a realtor, at least with the referrals? You don't have enough to build out. But
man, there's multiple ways to do it. I want to make sure I point out that a realtor cannot actually pay you a referral fee, right? Now, there's probably people out there that would do it, but those people will eventually get caught. And TREC in Houston and in Texas Real Estate Commission, they're really coming down and hammering on people for doing those kind of things. So if you're thinking about doing that, careful, because they're eventually going to catch you. So a realtor cannot actually pay a referral fee to an unlicensed individual. So if you're a wholesaler and you're like, hey, here, take this lead and kick me back some, you're doing something illegal. So you have to figure out another way to do it. I would say exchange different types of leads. So, hey, I'm going to toss you this lead. Toss me the next one that doesn't fit your listing criteria. I still buy houses from agents who believe they can't do anything with the house that they're getting from like a hoarder. Like a hoarder calls them, wants to list a house, and they're like, they go out there, they walk in, they're like, I can't list this thing. What am I going to do with this? And they'll call me and be like, hey, do you want it? And I'm like, heck yeah, I want it, you know? And so believe it or not, there's a ton of realtors out there that don't know what to do with motivated sellers or sellers who have specific special needs. Talk to those guys, build a giant team of them. And there's so many ways to work with realtors besides that, because realtors have access to a ton of buyers, and buyers are always looking for deals. And there are plenty of people out there with cash who would love to get something that is just semi-discounted. It doesn't even have to be 70 cents on a dollar. It can be 80, 85, 90 cents on a dollar, and they'll pay cash and they'll close on it quick, and they trust their realtor, and so everyone wins, you know?
Right. And so, to add to that, so if you look at a wholesaler that's, trying to build a relationship with a realtor, I've heard it a couple of different ways. There are some people who say, well, realtors only want to talk to realtors. All right. So would you suggest that wholesaler become a realtor? Will that pack more weight when he's having she's having a conversation with that realtor, or is that just all in the mind?
I think that's all in the mind. I don't think that's actually true. Realtors only want to talk to realtors, and the realtor business and industry is changing drastically. Over 50% of all realtors will cease to be in real estate in the next 5 to 10 years. A lot of that is because of age. Like the average median age of a real estate agent right now is 55. Wow. But if you really look at what's happening, most of them that are going to be pushed out, the grand majority of them will be pushed out, not because they're being left behind on just the new stuff that's happening, the new trends or any new technology. It's really just because of age. So what's happening is you're getting in a lot of new people into the industry, and they're younger. They're millennials. They think differently. They're open to working together with other people. If you think about it, millennials are a lot more open to coexisting than any of the other generations. Right. And so I don't think that that's true. Like, I feel like my agents and myself, like, we're open to working with anyone. I think where that comes from is when a wholesaler has absolutely no training or no experience, and then they're calling that agent and being like, hey, you don't know what you're talking about. And I will admit, most agents have somewhat of an ego problem, and they think they know all, and not always true.
Right. Okay. And we're going to ask some questions about the market, because I know you're a big component of the Houston market, and you got a big brain on what's going on. But before we get there, we have all of these big buying companies that come with their own realtors, like your Open Doors type of companies that are moved into the market. How do you think that, and also there are some network marketing companies that have moved into the market as well that are associated directly with realtors. How do you think that would affect the future, or if any?
I think it's going to affect every wholesaler's future a lot. And the guys that are just getting started may not know the difference. You guys and myself, we're going to see it. We're going to feel the impact, and it's going to be a big impact at first, and then I think it'll start to normalize as we start really seeing their results. I have been really looking into Open Door and some of their quote-unquote competitors a lot lately, because I think what they're doing is they're coming in and they're taking that motivated seller out of your pocket, my pocket, anyone else who's interested in actually investing in real estate. And they're doing it because they have institutional money. They have more money than they know what to do with, so they can afford to spend more on that client acquisition than you and I. Right. On top of that, yes, they're connected through every realtor. They found a way to really go out and market through the realtors who are out there already doing business. So that's like just plugging directly into the brain of the system. So they're smart, right? They're smart, they're efficient. But I'll tell you one thing that I'm finding is I don't think that they're going to be able to compete in terms of the service that you and I can provide. And I know this because they're working on a much larger scale. Their scale is so enormous that for them to make a quick adjustment on how they talk to people or how they do their presentation or what they deliver in terms of value, they're going to be a lot slower. And for us, it's like, hey, we know we can't beat them on what we can offer, but we can beat them on reviews. We can beat them on our service. We can beat them on what we provide in terms of value. We can beat them on overcoming. I mean, how many times have you bought a deal from a client who just needed help with moving? You know, like, hey, look, I want to sell this thing, but I have no idea how I'm going to pack everything up and move it to the next place. And you're like, well, shoot, I got a buddy who can move you for like $500 and I'm getting a hell of a deal. So done, you know?
Right.
So
we have movers right now at somebody's house that's packing her up and then going to move her. So yeah, absolutely. The value that we bring to the table.
No, exactly. And I mean, when I was full-time acquisitions, I had an assistant. Like I had a guy that would help me literally just go help people pack. Like that was like such a big deal for so many people, especially like the older folks. They're like, oh, I don't know how I'm going to pack everything and whatnot. And obviously I brought that up during conversation because I wanted them to think about the fact that it wasn't just getting a cash offer and closing it in 7 or 10 days. It was getting a cash offer and everything in between the time that you signed and the time that you closed. And that included
everything in between.
Yeah. I mean, you know, so it's so much more than that, man. And we are always going to be better at that. You guys, myself, you know, people that are in the business, we can always deliver better value. I don't think we've been pushed to do it before. I think, you know, we've gotten away with just kind of doing just a half-ass job. Now it's going to be the time where like the real guys, the real killers in this market, we're going to get to the top because we're going to adjust to what the client's telling us. I want more efficiency. I want more transparency, and I want better service. Otherwise, I'm selling to these big guys, and they're going to make it easier than you.
Right. Perfect. And then the second part to that is whether you want to talk about this or not, but we know that there's several virtual brokerages that have moved into the market. How do you feel like that? Is that affecting your business, or how do you think it would affect wholesaling business as well?
So the virtual brokerages are interesting, man. There's two sides of that coin, right? Like every industry goes through like their metamorphosis stage. You know, if you think about it, we all started with, you know, desktop computers and everything was desktop. We wanted a desktop software for everything. And now it's like we want everything online. It needs to be just a web page that has everything that we want and all the buttons and resources and just everything needs to be more simplified and easier. And so it's happened in different industries. It's happening now. But what we forget is that our clients, because this is such a big purchase and such a big deal and such an important one, they still want real people and they still want results. And what that means sometimes is you can be virtual, you can say that you're going to be more efficient, you can say that you're going to pass on savings and whatnot, but ultimately what I think that boils down to is, are you going to provide good customer service? And most of what I'm seeing right now, that's not the case, right? Like they're not really going out there and thinking, how do I make this better for the consumer? They're thinking, how do I make this better for myself? And when you start looking at like other industries who didn't think about consumer and thought about self, look at Toys R Us. Where are they?
Gone.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's the truth, man. So I'm not worried about them. I think we're going to see a splash on the brokerage side. All right, we're working on lighting, as you can see.
Yeah. You look like me now.
So we're going to see a splash on the brokerage side. We're going to see people that are going to say, well, I think this is going to be the new way that things are going to go. Just like you guys are seeing it with, oh, I think I'm going to sell my house to Open Door because they just sent me this letter or they have this great website or whatnot. But at the end of the day, man, I think once all this dust gets settled out, the person that provides the best service is always going to win.
Right. I like that. And because
customer focus too.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Yeah, I think that's how you win, right? And like you said, we can't compete on the grand scheme because they have more money. They're putting out more money, right? But like you said, what I found is that from my research, a lot of the people who are behind the scenes on these companies, like your Open Doors, they don't know anything about real estate, right? This is just another investment, just like anything else they would go out and buy, whether they're buying gyms or any other business that they buy and hold for 5 years and sell. They're just private equity firms, right?
So I'll give you guys something that I recently found out that I think is going to make every wholesaler in the nation super happy. One, Open Door right now has multiple neighborhoods in Dallas where they started really putting in their systems here in Texas that have not sold. Like they have houses that are sitting on the market that they under rehabbed, they're under marketing, now they're price reducing, and neighbors are like, dude, these people are bringing my values down and they're just sitting there, they're not selling. So here's the news flash for them that they haven't figured out. And it happened to other hedge funds. If you guys remember, when we went through our latest downturn, there was these hedge funds that came in and bought thousands of houses. And then they were like, oh crap, we got to maintain them. And there's turnover when you have a tenant, and you got to fix it up again. And we forgot to calculate all that. And we're not making the same amount of money that we thought. Here, let's just start selling it all. Right. We're gonna get to that point, because I don't think anyone ever calculates how much effort and how much time and money it takes to actually build a portfolio. And then, besides that, they're coming in right now, they're coming in real strong. But if you look at their reviews, they're horrible, right? Like they come in and they give you like a 90-95% loan to value offer. You and I look at that offer and we're like, well, hell, how can we compete? But I went through like the whole process, because that's just like what I do, like who I am. Like if I see someone that's coming in new, I'm like, hey, well, let me see their process. Maybe their process is so much better that we can learn, and everyone can grow from this. So I went through the process. I had one of them sent me an offer on one of my listings, and I coached my client into going through with it just to see the whole thing, like the whole thing, submitting the info, getting the offer, looking at what was going to happen, and then like really reading through the fine print. What we found was, yes, it was a 90-something% loan to value deal offer, and it looked really good on paper. Then we saw, well, there's a $10,000 fee, and they called it, like I don't know, it was like something silly, or like something for marketing or risk management or something like that, right? And if you and I were to look at that, we'd call it a wholesale fee.
Right.
They called it risk management. All right. And yeah,
I like that.
It's the same stuff.
Managers. There we go.
Yeah. It's the same thing. Right. And then it said, well, we're going to do some inspections. And then after we do inspections, you're either going to fix everything on the inspection report, or you're going to deduct what it's going to cost to fix the house and get it to this point. If you really think about that, really think about that, it's a great way to set it up. It's a great way to market it. But that's going to probably piss some people off, because they're thinking, I'm going to get $200,000, and then they're looking at their renegotiated price, and it's going to be closer to like 120, 130. And they're like, well, hell, I could have just gone with these guys, and they were going to pay me 130 from the beginning. We'd be closed by now.
Right. Right. And we're hearing a lot of that from other areas also, where people are running into the same issue now. And so, for the wholesalers that are out there, you can't, it's competition, but just like Alan said, are you building a good connection with the people, but also having great communication with them, right? And be ready to close. Make sure you get it at the price that you can close. I think that's what gives wholesalers a bad name, is when you go out there and you lock up a deal that you don't really have a buyer for, right? Yep. And you have to return it. Okay. So that's definitely always a no-no in our arena.
So Alan, you've been through wholesaler, flipper, landlord, lender, brokerage owner. Talk to us about finding your niche and the importance of that.
I love that, man. And one, it's the utmost important thing, but two, I will tell you that once you find it, it may change. And that's what happened to me. When I got into wholesaling, loved it, had a passion for it. I was really, really good at it. And then eventually, and not everyone has my personality. This has been something I've dealt with my whole life, right? Like I get really good, and then I get bored, and I'm like, all right, it's time to do something else. and so, there's other people like that. But once you find what you're really, really good at, that's when you can really refine the skills. For me, it just so happened that I realized I was really good at sales, and I was really good at being in front of people and comfortable sitting in their kitchen table and asking them questions about their financial well-being. And I didn't feel the shame that other people did. So it worked out for me. Eventually that led to me keeping some of those opportunities. And I think it's a good transition to start wholesaling, learning what works, seeing other people make mistakes, because there's no better way to do that, and no better way to learn than to see other people either win or fail, and then pick up something for yourself along the way. And here's the thing, I didn't make any money on my first flip. Heck, I don't think I made any money on my first 2 or 3 flips. And that's the truth. But I learned everything I needed to learn on that. And then eventually it got to the point where I would only cherry pick the ones that really made sense. And I was still wholesaling, but now I was making more money flipping. right? And then eventually I was like, you know what? Flipping is really, really great. I still do it to this day. I still carry 2 to 3 projects at a time. But I don't actually want to do it unless I know for sure I'm going to make money. I don't really like to take the chances anymore. Or, you know, what would be even better is if I could just keep some of them and make some passive income. And ultimately, I mean, that's why we want to get into this business. We want to get into this business to build passively so that when you wake up one day and you're tired and you're grumpy, like you know, like what happens to everyone, then you can just stay home and just, you know, open your mailbox and open up that paycheck. So that's what happened with me is, all right, well, I like flipping. I like wholesaling. I like flipping. I actually don't want to work that much in the next 15, 20 years. So I'm going to start keeping some of them and renting them out. And then I realized I wasn't real good at being a landlord. Comes back to your question, finding your niche. I was not good at it. All right. I was like horrible at collecting rent. People would be like, oh, I got to buy Christmas presents. And I'd be like, I get it. I understand, you know, Christmas presents.
For the kids.
Yeah. It'd be like February. I'm like, hey, are you done buying Christmas presents? So, you know, eventually I ended up moving into more of a vacation rental style. And that's actually what I do now. I've gotten it to the point where I'll flip a couple, the ones that I really like, and then I keep the rest and put them into like Airbnb, VRBO, any type of vacation rental system. And I've got a good system for that. And I make more money on that. And you know, I like it more. I found a passion in that side of the business. As far as the lending side, I think that just comes with time, man. You know, I found that I was making a lot of money for my private investors, and I was like, you know, why can't I do that? And so I moved into that. And so what happened with me is as I've grown, I find people who can manage those parts of the business. So like, it's not just me doing everything. I have people who I trust. I have a right-hand man or woman for every one of those things that I create. And they all work independently of each other. I just get a chance to manage them and oversee their growth and make sure that we're doing a good job at them.
Right. That's crazy that you manage them separately, but I know very well, just knowing your business, that they feed each other as well.
Oh, no doubt. Well, yeah.
Business models feeds the next.
Everyone feeds the next. Yeah. So perfect example. So I had an agent bring me a transaction that she knew was never going to sell. Right. So we paid her a commission, put her under contract. We said, hey, who wants this? Another agent of mine bought it. Perfect. I funded the deal. Great. Right. So now I'm the lender. We made a tiny little fee in between. This person went out, listed it, put it under contract in like 30 days. Obviously, because they're part of the brokerage, I made a little tiny piece of that, right? And now I'm looking at it and I'm like, man, that was a win like 3 or 4 times because I made a tiny little piece on every part of that transaction.
Right. But that adds up, right?
It adds up.
A few hundred times, and that all adds up. And I like how you've evolved over the years. Some people who are just getting started, you know, a lot of times all they know is wholesaling, right? I want to get into wholesaling. I want to get into the baddest, right? But I like how you've evolved and you've gone from that to flipping to a brokerage to lending to Airbnb, and you've really it all come down to one thing. Sounds like it's that you at one time you saw that I got to get from transactional to something passive so I can have something for the future, right?
Absolutely. But you know, I want to get back to answering your question: is how important is it to find your niche? I think I'm still looking for mine. I'm still out there saying, well, what's going to be my exact one thing that I can do? For now, what I've realized is I'm really, really good at building things. Like I can build a business, I can build a team, I can build a plan and put it into action. And so that's what I've continuously done. But if tomorrow I wake up and I'm like, hey, you know what? Today I want to build a building. I may do that. And I feel like as entrepreneurs, that's the best part of it. Don't get me wrong. It's not easy. It's hard. I still lose sleep here and there when we have like a horrible month or we have, or things didn't go right, because we hit dead ends all the time. So like, that's maybe the other thing that we should let people know is this is a business. You're going to run it like a business, and you're also going to run into the dead ends of a business. And by the way, those are a whole lot more than the wins. And if you can't like bear them, then maybe you're just not cut out for it, but you're going to do it right. And if you can bear with that, you're going to do well.
Yeah. Sometimes at the end of the day, all you have left is experience. And as you start to scale, your piece gets a lot smaller.
You know? And you know what? Yes, you either win or you learn, right?
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so when you look at today, speaking of that, so when you look at our market, so you hear a lot of the market is getting ready to change, right? We're getting ready to go into a downturn. What would you say, looking at our market today for a new wholesaler that's getting started, what direction should they go in right now?
Okay. Well, new wholesaler getting started, trying to figure out what to do with life and start this business, right? I think the market going into a downturn has absolutely zero to do with in correlation to whether that person should do it or should not do it, or whether they're going to be successful or not. Like
Right.
everybody wants to say the market's not good or the leads are not good. BS. Like we both know it's just you. Like
Right.
you're either lacking a discipline or you're lacking a skill.
Right.
Plain and simple. Like it doesn't come down to anything else besides that. The market being down is a tremendous opportunity, because as soon as the news starts saying that, as soon as the newscaster starts going, oh, the market's not doing real well, that's amazing for us as investors, because now every seller's like, well, I got to sell my house cheaper because the market sucks,
Right.
And as a wholesaler, you better be getting your butt in front of every person that you can and talking to them about your service and what you do and how you can help them. Whether that's grandma or the lady at the store that's checking you out, like whoever it is, like you're talking to them and you're saying, hey, what can I do to help you with your real estate? And even if you don't, if you're not going to help them buy or sell, then connect them with the right agent, connect them with the right lender, connect them with the right person who's going to help them through whatever problem they're going through, so that when they do need you, you're there.
Right. Yeah. And to bring that point, we saw that a mini version of that when Harvey came along, when we had the flood here. And there were some people who was like, oh my gosh, I can't sell anything. I can't buy anything. And no one's buying, but then the people that didn't have the excuses, who really got out there, they actually, we actually put more marketing into place, because we knew that there were going to be deals out there. Right.
Yeah.
People were going to be selling at a discount. And so you have to take into account for that, is that just whatever the market gives you is what you're going to take, but you got to find a way to get out there and win versus having those excuses.
Well, there's a lot of people that didn't have a problem August 1st. At the end of August, they had a problem that needed to be solved, and it's something that we could help with.
Right. Absolutely, and I like that, and it does come down to timing. I mean, with a retail lead, we have a 9-month to 12-month incubation period. With a seller, with like a motivated seller, once he calls us, we know that we have approximately 3 to 4 months. And so if you forgot to put him in your CRM, or if you're like still using spreadsheets or just even a notebook, but you forgot to remind yourself to follow up with that person, that's your bad. And that money was yours, and you let it go to someone else.
Right. Perfect. Well, Alan, you definitely gave us a lot of information. But definitely some great information. And I know that you guys, not only do you have a radio show, but you also have a pretty large event that you put on each month. You want to tell us about those?
Yeah, absolutely. So this event started with me inviting like a couple of my buddies and past clients, and like the first one was 3.5 years ago, and it was like 30 people that showed up. The last one that we had last year, we had over 400 people, and it's awesome, man. I mean, we cater the food, and it's free for everyone. We buy everyone drinks all night, beer, which not just any beer, St. Arnold's beer, which is one of the best craft beers in town, and it's all about connecting people, being that connector in the industry, being that person that will point you in the right direction. So I encourage my people to do that, and I have them bring all their clients, all of their friends and family, and really anyone else that we know, do business with, or want to do business with. Mm-hmm. And we gather. It's a couple hours. We network. We have a good time. We break bread, and we call it a day. The next one's on February 12th. So if you guys want to come out, please let me know. I'd be happy to get you guys a VIP band so you guys can come in, hang out. Beers on me.
Right. Appreciate it, Alan. We'll be sure.
I've been several times over the last year, and but
you haven't been VIP though.
I haven't been VIP.
You guys gotta come out, man. It's a good time. It's getting to be. So 2 years ago I was gonna, I just got to the point where I was like, all right, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. Let's do something else. And luckily I've built a good board of directors around me, and so they always shut me up when I have these like ideas that don't work, which is great for me, right? And they were like, what are you talking about, man? Like, this thing's growing. And I get one of our partners, which renewed with us again today, which is Jet Lending. and they're calling me and they're saying, dude, what are you talking about? Like, this thing's awesome. We got to keep it going. And boom, it's just, I mean, it's been nonstop since then.
Yeah, awesome. And so how do an audience that want to work with your company, work with your team, how do they reach out to you?
So perfect way to reach us is by phone or email. I mean, obviously you can always check out our website, which is whitepicketrrealty.com. I like giving my personal cell phone number away, but just be mindful that if I'm speaking or with a client, I don't pick up, but I do always call back, and it's 832-798-2568. It does blow up all day, but again, I'm always committed to keep calling back anyone that calls me. And then if there's anything that you guys want to ask questions on, it's info@whitepicketrrealty.com. That's our email. It goes to me and some of the board members. So we're always there to answer you.
All right, perfect. So we'll put that in the show notes. But Alan Hernandez, I want to thank you for coming out and being on our show. It's definitely an honor to have you on, but we definitely appreciate you for being on the show.
Thank you, guys. This show is awesome. I can't wait to see what you guys do with it and how much it's going to help your business. When I started my show, I had no clue what impact I was going to have, and it was like a few shows later and somebody recognized me coming out of a mall and they were like, hey, I watched your show. I was like, what show? What are you talking about?
Right.
So yes, people watch, people listen, and hopefully we've impacted some of their lives and making their decisions easier.
All right,
awesome.
We appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right, thanks a lot.